Good evening, Poe fans, and welcome back to a very special episode.
It is our 100th episode. We are celebrating 4 years. Count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 years for our season with 6 Degrees of Poe. And we wanted to share with you these wonderful clips, these wonderful ideas that everyone loves for Poe. And so we hope you enjoy them as much as we do. And we hope that you've enjoyed being along with the ride with the rest of us.
Yes, and you'll also enjoy some favorite moments that we're going to add in some clips from some favorite episodes of ours. And we will have 100 Poe connections for our 100th episode.
So sit back and enjoy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Hi Poe fans, Holly Knightley here. I just want to say congratulations to Carmen and Jeanie on their 100th episode of the 6 Degrees of Edgar Allan Poe. Carmen and Jeanie are a pillar in the Poe community, and their podcast is excellent. It helps connect all the nooks and crannies of life to Edgar Allan Poe, and I couldn't ask for anything more. I'm looking forward to many more episodes. Congrats, girls. Carry on the spirit of Poe.
So Edgar Allan Poe for me and Gothic horror as a genre got me into acting and becoming a pretender. And a lot of the old horror films that I used to watch, which were based on Poe, were really a huge part of my childhood. And I suppose in the pandemic as well, when I started to really get into his original stories, that also coincided with me giving up alcohol, and I guess it seemed like a bit of a sign to me to at the same time as me struggling my own demons in that regard, learning about Poe and his alcoholic issues kind of seemed like a bit of a sign that I should keep up my teetotalism. So I guess on a real personal level, that is why I feel like I somewhat owe Poe, and why I try and honor his text and spread the word with regard to his work. But I just love the kind of the language as an actor. It's such a joy to perform his stories.
Hi, I'm Jeff Thompson. Congratulations, Carmen and Jeanie, on your 100th episode and all of your outstanding work on behalf of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm so glad that I met you at Full Moon Cineplex and learned about your podcasts and Zoom meetings. Although I am a lifelong reader, admirer, and teacher of Poe, your projects have broadened my knowledge of Poe and given me even more to think, write, and teach about in my careers. Keep up the good work.
Hi there, Carmen and Jeanie. So you wanted to know, how do I connect with Poe? Well, I have connected with Poe since I was a child. I'm 55 years old, and I still connect with Poe. I still find him to be very relevant in my life. He has influenced so much of my work, from the Poe Tarot to my poetry, to my stories, all of it. He just, he's a constant muse, if you will, constantly coming through with little nuggets of Gothic, macabre information, planting seeds, if you will. So Poe is always around, always a big influence, and that is certainly why I love him so much, because he I think anyone can relate to Poe at different points in their life, whether they're going through something very traumatic or difficult, or a pandemic, whatever it might be. The stories he has written really are so universal and kind of transcend time itself. So it doesn't matter when you stumble upon them. There's something definitely relatable with Poe's work. I think he's always going to be relevant, because of that. Anyway, love what you both do through your podcasts and your podcasts, and it's always fun to join up with you when I can. And I look forward to more and more from you ladies, and more from Poe. So again, take care. I didn't say so. Trisha Lee, she felt of heart and soul. So thank you again, and thank you.
So as a poet myself, Poe has kind of influenced me to be able to, how do I say this? To be able to tap into the harder emotions to put into words, that the deeper meaning of being human, experiencing loss, experiencing the darker side of life, and being able to more easily put that in my own writing from my own experience.
Hi, Carmen and Jeanie. Congratulations on 100 episodes. You've always been one of the best and also most supportive shows out there. It's a really big accomplishment. Congratulations. You asked how people got into Poe. I actually got into Poe because I ordered in thin old watermill classics, tales of mystery, famous tales of mystery and horror from the Scholastic Book Fair. When I was probably in about 5th or 6th grade, and that was the beginning of when I read Poe and how I got into Poe, and eventually, even though that was a book of short stories, that introduced me to his work, and I ended up writing poetry inspired by Poe. Congratulations again. Happy 100 episodes. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Brianna Lichardi, and I'm going to start off with an Edgar Allan Poe poem called Spirits of the Dead. Thy soul shall find itself alone mid dark thoughts of the gray tombstone, not one of all the crowd to pry into thine hour of secrecy. Be silent in that solitude, which is not loneliness, for then the spirits of the dead who stood in life before thee are again in death around thee, and their will shall overshadow thee. Be still. The night, though clear, shall frown, and the stars shall look not down from their high thrones in heaven, with light like hope to mortals given. But their red orbs without beam to thy weariness shall seem as a burning and a fever which would cling to thee forever. Now are thoughts thou shalt not banish, now are visions ne'er to vanish. From thy spirit shall they pass no more, like dewdrop from the grass. The breeze, the breath of God, is still, and the mist upon the hill, shadowy yet unbroken, is a symbol and a token. How it hangs upon the trees, a mystery of mysteries.
I just wanted to take a minute to congratulate Carmen and Jeanie, the Potastic 2, on their 100th episode of The 6 Degrees of Poe. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to it.
Hi,
Good evening. My name is Keith. I'm from Roanoke, Virginia. I am a member of the 6 Degrees of Poe, a proud member. What Poe means to me, I have always been fascinated by the macabre, the eerie, the dark, the mysterious. And Edgar Allan Poe is always, with his stories and poems, has summed that up for me. And I've always been able to get what I wanted in that realm from him. That just the macabre. He is, after all, the master of the macabre. Well, I wanted to say congratulations on your 100th episode. Keep up the good work and look forward to seeing more. Bye.
Hello. My name is Cassandra Windwalker, and at the moment, I live and write from the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. But I've been all over. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, lived 8 years in Indiana among the cornfields. Then I moved to Colorado and was here for 11 years before heading to Alaska for 6 years, and now I'm back in the true home of my heart. So I'm very happy to be back in Colorado. I was asked to talk about what Edgar Allan Poe and his work means to me. And that's a very good question for me in particular, because Edgar Allan Poe is one of the earliest memories that I have of my childhood. The first thing I ever remember being read to me was The Raven by my father. And I was entranced. From the first time I heard it, I can still hear it in his voice. Poe trusted his readers. He didn't overwhelm us with backstory and explanations and every detail of the setting. He dropped us in to the horror and he left us there. And as a child, I was fascinated by the mystery and the wonder and the possibilities in his writing. But I was also equally fascinated by his craftsmanship, because when Poe writes, he's a true master of language itself. So he's not just painting you a picture with words, he is commanding your corporeal self to attend to the rhythm of his words, so that your heart rate and your breathing begin to take on the rhythm of his words, and the story echoes in your bones, so that you can't help but feel it. And even as a very, very young child that I was, who couldn't possibly have understood all of the complexities of what Poe was relating in The Raven, I was nonetheless absolutely consumed and empowered by his words. And that only became more true as I got older and began to read all of his stories and his other poems, and found in each one an echoing horror that I recognized as being fundamental to the human experience. The way we process grief and guilt and monstrosities and cruelties, and how we try to escape them and never quite do, but always against this lyrical, rhythmic, inescapable beauty. I can't write like Poe and would not attempt to. I don't think mimicry is wise. But I do hope that someday one of my stories has the same sort of compelling effect that Poe's stories had on me, on someone else. That it drops like a stone into the well of their heart and sends out ripples that never quite end. Anyway, thank you for this opportunity to share just a little bit of my perspective on Edgar Allan Poe. And I hope whoever's watching this, if there's any chance you haven't read Poe for yourself or haven't read very much of him, I would encourage you to spend some time alone with his words, and you'll never be alone again.
Lo, it is a gala night within the lonesome latter years, an angel throng bowing bedight in veils and drowned in tears, sit in a theatre to see a play of hopes and fears, while the orchestra breathes fitfully the music of the spheres. Mimes in the form of God on high mutter and mumble low, and hither and thither fly mere puppets they, who come and go at bidding of vast formless kings that shift the scenery to and fro, flapping from out their condor wings, invisible woe. That motley drama, oh, be sure it shall not be forgot, with its phantom chased forevermore by a crowd that sees it not, through a circle that ever returneth into the self-same spot, and much of madness, and more of sin, and horror, the soul of the blood. But see, amid the mimic rout, a crawling shape intrude, a blood-red thing that rides from out that scenic solitude. It rides, when mortal pangs the mimes become its food, and the seraphs sob at vermin fangs, in human gore imbued. Out are the lights out all, and over each quivering form, the curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of a storm, while the angels, all pallid and wan, uprising, unveiling, affirm that the play is a tragedy man, and its hero the conqueror worm.
Well, one of the questions we always ask everyone that we talk with is, what is your favorite Poe story and or poem? You may have one of each or just one.
Yeah, it's a tough one because there's so many, which
I
you
know.
very well know. It's such a hard one to pick from. I could say The Raven because it's such a it's such a great piece, but also and again looking at it from a performance or an actor's point of view. 2 or 3 minutes of a monologue has its pros and cons. It's got its challenges. But for The Raven, which is like 12 minutes of a monologue, so to run that through for 12 minutes of a singular performer is it's a mammoth task, particularly to try and keep an audience's attention without dropping the ball. So from an actor's point of view, that's a very cool one. It gets the salivation glands going. It's a monster, and you want to, it's terrifying, but it's so enticing as well. So The Raven is up there for me, but I like the mystique of Spirits of the Dead.
Oh,
well.
yes. Hi Jeanie, hi Carmen, this is Mel Grosvenor with Ohio Poe Fans. And of course I've been a lifelong fan. I've loved Poe since I was a kid. And for a long time I didn't have anyone to connect with. So I started Ohio Poe Fans and found lots of people, and through that found you. And that's one of the things I love most about Poe, is how he has brought so many of us together that never would have met across all different things like art and music and film. And you really bring that together. So congratulations on your 100th episode.
Hi, I'm Steve Boilard. Congratulations, 6 Degrees of Poe in your 100th episode. I'm a lifetime Poe aficionado, as should be evident from my bookshelf and my Desiderata I have around here. I wanted to tell you that I've been writing a number of Poe books. Last year you may have seen A Dying Wish, which was a finalist for the Saturday Visitor Awards. And this coming year, look for this book, which is Latter-day Poe, which will be, I hope, the winner of 2025 Saturday Visitor Awards. Congratulations again.
Okay, Edgar Allan Poe is so exacting with all his words. I feel like he sat there like choosing the perfect thing. I was like, there's no way that he made this kind of mistake that normally would be picked up in today in the modern world by any sort of editor. If anybody else read the book, like we all were like, okay, what happened to the dogs? There's no way. So I thought it was the edition I had. So I got a different edition, and I reread it right away, looking for like, why is this missing? How could he not do this? But guys, so I don't know if anybody else is as crazy as I am. There's light at the end of the tunnel. There's been multiple books written by other authors that continue the story.
Mm-hmm.
So Jules Verne.
Yes.
So I've read that.
Yeah.
And an Arctic adventure. Jules Verne does save the day. I was thinking that.
Hi, I'm Dwight O. McPherson.
And I'm Rebecca McPherson.
And we are the creators of the award-winning graphic novel series, The Imaginary Voyages of Edgar Allan Poe at Hocus Pocus Comics. And this is our mascot, Pip.
Pip, yeah. Our intern.
Yeah, I wish.
We are going to discuss what Poe means to us for the 6 Degrees of Poe podcast. Thank you for having us on there, by the way. We had a fantastic time. What does Poe mean to you?
That is so hard, you know? I mean, my first memories are watching the Harvey Korman films, of course, based on Edgar Allan Poe's work. But as I got older, I loved his stories. So they've always been there to be spooky, give me something I can return to over and over again and still feel those emotions. And then I got to find out about the man, and that's why I really connected with him. With his extreme circumstances that he went through. So to ask me what Poe means to me, Poe is invaluable. He's invaluable. He's been just an unending source of inspiration for me. How about you, honey?
For me, he's a trailblazer. He was like one of the first self-publishing authors, and he went through a lot. We still connect with him. He has influenced so many genres of pop culture. It's not even funny. I mean, Wednesday, Netflix series, his name is all over everything. So for me, I think my first memory of Poe is when my grandmother had a lot of his works in her library in New York, in Manhattan, in her apartment. So
that's a cool grandmother.
Yeah. But yes, she's a very cool grandmother because she actually brought my Jim Morrison book. So yes, she's a very cool grandma. But that's my first memory of Poe, and of course we all read his poetry in school in English. We go through The Raven, Telltale Heart, all that stuff. But there's so much more to him. He was a good critic. He wrote about furniture. Yeah.
Science.
The comic. Yeah. I mean, it's just
father of the detective novel.
Absolutely.
Father of science fiction novel.
Yeah.
I mean, the man was just a genius.
A genius. Yes.
He was way ahead of his time.
Yes, as most creative people are.
That was his fatal flaw.
Yes, right. So for us, And you'll see that throughout that series that we wrote. It's all of those things that inspire us from Edgar Allan Poe and beyond. But yeah, there's so much we can't really condense it into 30 seconds.
It's hard to do.
But he's just an amazing, amazing Imagineer.
We love Poe, and we are thankful that he shared his talent with the rest of the world. That's it for now.
In ratiocination, not less than in literature, it is the epigram which is the most immediately and the most universally appreciated.
Hey Carmen, hey Jeanie. Congratulations on your 100th episode. I hope to see more. Congratulations.
Just want to let you know I enjoy your podcast. I was able to sit in on a few of them, and I got introduced to them from a family member, and they really have gotten me into the Poe readings and stories, and I'm enjoying it 100%. Opens up a whole new world for me. Thank you.
Oh, we have another guest who is a digital guest.
Yes, who was one of our very first.
Well, it was our first Facebook Live.
Yeah, he was the one that joined us for our first Facebook Live, and we were in sharing about Poe's birthday, I think, at the time.
And it was in with a Poe, in with a Price, because it was
exactly because it was Vincent Price
Yes.
and Edgar Allan Poe crossover.
Yes.
So this is Jason Markiewicz.
Mhm.
He is going to be sharing his audio work for Annabelle Lee,
Mhm.
which was posthumously posted in 1849. Not his video, but
Yes.
published by Poe, because he's not a time traveler, we asked. So Jason Markiewicz is the voice behind numerous USA Today, Amazon, and New York Times bestselling authors' audiobooks, and is the founder and director of Markiewicz Audio Works. He has audio theater company that produces full cast dramatizations of works of classic fiction. He also has, since 2020, since the pandemic,
Yes,
narrated 24 titles on the audiobook. It's like Audie Murphy all of a sudden. Audiobook market across various retailers, including Audible, iTunes, Barnes & Noble, audiobooks.com, Kobo, that's one I haven't heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
Spotify, and more. He has earned 2 individual narrator awards, an audiobook reviewer choice award, a Seneca Award nomination, and a Best Mystery Audiobook Award.
And I think not updated on there. I believe he was nominated for a Saturday Visitor
He
Award
was. He was
as
nominated
well.
last
Last year.
International Poe Festival as an Poe Visitor Award. He is a 24-year officer in the United States Air Force Reserve, married to his high school sweetheart Diana, and has 3 wonderful children. That's great. You can follow and subscribe to Markiewicz Audiobooks at Facebook, which is just Markiewicz Audio Works. YouTube, Markiewicz Audio Works Presents. You can follow and subscribe to Jason himself through Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, with just using his name, Jason Markiewicz.
Yes.
And he will be happy you will be involved with what he loves to do. And we love hearing his renditions. We love following him. And I think Holly, I don't know if she shared it earlier, but I think we did. Yes. Jason did the audio work for her book, Eye of Athena.
No, the Riley House. Riley House.
Oh, he did Riley? I thought
Yes,
he did Eye of Athena too.
Riley House.
Okay.
Holly can correct us on.
Yeah.
I have
So
but
Riley,
I know Riley House. He just
Riley House he just finished. Okay. So that way we'll know. So if you want to check out Holly's book, Riley House, her novella, and the audio works when it comes out, that's where you'll find it.
And
So-
one other note, that's very cool, is that this production, his wife is in it.
Oh, yes,
yes.
yes.
So, and it is a lovely video. And are we ready?
Yes, and let's see. In our comments, Intello, someone new. They said, "Hi, just stumbled upon this channel. I'm surprised you haven't heard Kobo Ladies." I'm like, well, we've heard of it, we just haven't checked it out yet.
Yes.
So I was just surprised to find that Kobo is gaining popularity.
Yes.
And then Season says Jason is a super nice guy and talented, and we agree wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And and then Jason is doing Riley House. That's what Holly says. All right,
Okay.
perfect.
All
Well, all right.
right.
Without further ado, here is Jason Markiewicz's rendition of Annabelle Lee for us.
Yes.
And welcome, Intello. We're happy to have you.
Yes.
Markiewicz AudioWorks presents Edgar Allan Poe's Annabelle Lee, performed by Jason Markiewicz, with music by Hayden Folker. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden lived there whom you may know by the name of Annabelle Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child, in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabelle Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabelle Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabelle Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many, far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabelle Lee, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And so, o'er the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.
The do snaps, yes! Thanks, Jason, for sharing it. We appreciate it.
That was beautiful. And Annabelle Lee is probably one of the top poems that most people are familiar with behind the Raven. I would definitely say.
I do recall it was the first one that I ever had to memorize in school.
Okay.
And it was in 6th grade.
Okay.
And it touched me even then. So it was very much a powerful story, even to someone who's, in 10, 11 at the time. So
it is absolutely just so heartfelt.
Yes, and Holly says she loves this version of Annabelle Lee. Irish Poetry by Candlelight, which once more I believe is Wayne.
Yes.
It says mesmeric work from the darkly talented two of Poe. I believe he was talking about us. I thank you. Thank you, Wayne, and all those. And then Intello, our new guest that's joining us, is says, "Wow, I'm getting chills listening to that." So
yes,
we'll definitely share out to Jason because we will be putting these each individuals into little social
Segments.
media
Mhm.
segments that they can share on their websites and other social media. But we are
Absolutely.
happy you're joining us live, and
Mhm.
we hope you continue to hang out with us. And we're enjoying sharing all these wonderful, talented people
I agree.
and promoting our poetry contest, our second annual Poet Like Poe, which will begin April 1st, which is Monday.
Yes.
Yes.
And one other note about Annabelle is many people have their own kind of belief of
Mhm.
who was Annabelle Lee, who really
Yes.
was the inspiration. And, you know, I have my thoughts, but at the same time, it
Yeah.
changes sometimes. To me, with the line, I was a child and she was a child.
Yeah.
His first love was Elmira Shelton, Royster Shelton,
Yeah.
and to me, it kind of goes back to that.
Mhm.
Sometime I think about that, but then it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was Virginia.
Virginia, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
because she was a child. He wasn't really a child, but she was kind of a child.
yeah,
So
he was still
he was young.
young.
He was
Yeah, he
young.
wasn't technically child,
Right.
but
Right.
he was young, and so it could fit with so many
It
different people. And
it
I think
could.
it also, once more, as we've talked about in our Poem Plugged and other places,
Mhm.
Poe leaves a lot of interpretation up to the readers, and
Yeah.
he puts what he puts into his words, but sometimes he doesn't put the actual names of anybody. I mean, very few. Like
Right.
he does with Lenore. It should be with Lenore, not Lenore. And so other things, but at the same time, it would fit so many different females in his life
Mhm. Yeah.
that were taken too soon.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I think his meaning behind Annabelle Lee
Yeah. And
was just the heartache of losing someone so
young
young.
and yeah.
Yeah.
And you can also kind of think about, okay, is it all of these women rolled into one,
Mhm.
thinking about different characteristics of each one put
Yes.
together. Even like his mother died very young.
Yeah,
And
he was
so
literally not even 3 yet when she
mhm.
died.
Mhm.
So he was such tainted by death.
Yeah. At
Eh,
too young of
Yeah.
an age.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that I guess that's one of the reasons I share so much with the love of Poe is a lot of parallels happen, and most of us probably can uh, mark some parallels with Poe's life and with his works and with ourselves.
Absolutely.
And Holly says, I always think of Virginia for Annabelle Lee.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
we're right there with you,
Yeah.
Holly.
Yeah,
And
and that's to say at different times in my, thinking, reading that poem,
Mhm.
I think, well, could it be Virginia? Could it be Elmira? I mean, it just,
Yeah, could have been his mother.
yeah,
Could have been
it's kind of
anybody.
neat thinking about that.
Yeah, it just, because then it would be like the Oedipus complex. So I'm
Yeah.
not
Well,
going back
and
into Greek mythology
yeah, we're
there and
not going
tragedy.
there. We're not digressing, Jeannie. I'm pulling you
Okay,
back
all
in.
right. I won't digress into history.
But here's the other question.
Mhm.
If he was alive today or he time traveled to our event
Yes,
right this
yes, yes,
moment
yes, yes.
and popped in on comments,
Mhm.
if we asked him, would he tell?
Probably not.
I have the romantic feeling of I don't want to know.
Yeah, and I think that's why he would not tell us.
Kind of like what we talked about on Poe Unplugged the other night.
Mhm.
Mark DeWidziak made the comment, I don't want to know because then it takes away that romantic feeling. And I feel the same way
Mhm.
about Annabelle Lee.
Yep. And then Season says that it could be Elmira. And then Intello, what books or poems of Edgar should I start reading for a beginner like me?
Oh, okay.
So we will definitely give you some idea. There's the works that of Poe's poetry that you
Mhm.
can find at probably Amazon or anything. Just
Mhm.
start with his basic poetry or his short stories.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah,
Mhm.
some novels, some short things you can get has a little mixture of both.
Yeah, and he
So
only wrote one novel, the narrative
yes,
of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket.
yes, which we will be
So
discussing in May
on Poe
on Poe
Unplugged.
Unplugged.
Yes.
So if you want to join us then, we will be happy to have you
Yes.
join us, and you can find all about that on our
Mhm.
website. But yes, just to suggest some starters would be the poems of like what Jason presented, Annabelle Lee. The Raven, you could check out that on different
That'll
platforms with
probably
different
be in
people.
all poetry collections.
Yeah, that'll be in all poetry collections. He has some shorter things. Some of his post stories, the ones that we enjoy the most, is Tell Heart. If you haven't heard about that, and if you want to watch it before reading it, Poe Movies, who is also joining us this
Yes.
season, they have where you can go to their YouTube and check it out. They did
Yes.
a nice little video. It was an Emmy award winning video. So if you want to see it before you read it yourself, then you can check it out, or do vice versa. I always love to read before I watch, so that's just me.
Yeah.
But check those out, and you're very welcome, and we're so happy to have you joining us.
Yes.
And Holly says, true, I don't want to know. So we agree, Holly.
Yes.
Because it's in the mystery.
It is.
It's the mystery of Edgar Allan Poe that we want to keep alive.
For Intello, another place to go if you don't want to purchase a copy is poemuseum.org.
Yes.
Has pretty much his whole collection of poems and short stories.
And then there's poststories.com, which you can just get on there, and they have access, and you can read them, and you can even print them out. They have print versions for you if you don't want to buy them all at once. You just want to check out a few. So there's a couple places you can go.
eapoe.org, which is the Edgar Allan Poe Society of Baltimore, also has a huge collection, and there's also different commentaries and things that people have written, essays about his works as well, to kind of complement if you want to dig into some of the meanings behind it of people's interpretations.
Right. And so Season also suggested for you in the chat to start with The Raven, A Dream Within a Dream, Morella, and The Cask of Amontillado. Those are great suggestions.
Yes, those are great suggestions.
So take all that and go and check them out, and we hope you enjoy them as much as we do.
Stay with us throughout the day, because we've got so many more to be read. And
so you will be able to hear and see some more throughout the day.
Yes, and speaking of which, we have our next guest.
Our next guest is
When I was 10 years old, one of my older cousins read out loud The Raven, and then she followed it with Annabelle Lee, and I was hooked. Today, a lot of people associate Poe with the macabre, but I also associate him with a lot of other emotions like fear and revenge and self-doubt and sadness, a whole lot of romance. 65 years after first hearing Poe, I'm still a fan. Go, Poe.
My dream was to be a fiction writer, so I'm hoping that I eventually get to like published novelist status. But we'll see.
That's awesome.
The difference with novels is you write the entire thing and then you sell it, whereas with a nonfiction book, you sell off a proposal. You don't have to write the entire book first. So it feels dicey to write an entire book without a contract. But we'll see. What are you going to do but try?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, it sounds really interesting, and I know something that we would both love to read. So,
thank you. I hope we get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Especially with horror. And if you stick a little satire in there with the horror, you've got us right there. Boom!
Yes. Right? That's the form I love too. So hopefully I can achieve it. If not, I'll just have spotted it in other people's work.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'll help try to do our part and push it. And say, hey, you gotta follow her. You gotta follow her.
Absolutely. And Poe, for your problems, I know you won one award. Was it 2 different awards you won, or was nominated?
We were a finalist for the Library of Virginia's Nonfiction Award against Edie Couric, which was awesome. I was proud of that circle. So
cool.
Yeah, so we were one of 4 finalists there, and then we won the Saturday Visitor Awards at the Pope Festival.
That's awesome. That is amazing. That is
That's where I heard Lynn Cullen speak.
Okay. Well, very cool. Well, Jeannie, what other questions do you have?
Well, I asked her about what she has going on in the future, so I got that covered. So I'm just trying to, I don't think I can think of anything right this moment. So what do you have?
Well, and I was going to say, one thing we always share out with our listeners and viewers, I always want to say watchers, but that just sounds creepy, but I guess that's very Poe-esque, so we'll go with it.
We're not calling them stalkers, so that's good.
That's true. That is so true. But you've got your website we'll share out, and then what other social media platforms if you want to share that out with our people?
I have Instagram. I'm not particularly good at that, but you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, all under Kat Bab McGarrett or Catherine Bab McGarrett. And you can find the book Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Any independent bookstore is going to have it. Yeah, so I hope people check it out and it makes them laugh. If you have a dark sense of humor and you love Poe, then I think it's going to be in your lane.
Yes.
I often get... The thing I've enjoyed so much about this project coming out in the world is that it connects me with incredibly like-minded people. If we have this kind of personality,
yes.
If you get this joke, then we're going to be friends. So.
I agree. And one thing we've mentioned multiple times with talking to, as we call them, Poe people, it's just the Poe community is so friendly and just it's like a little Poe family, and like you said, like-minded people, and just kind of think in the lines of Poe and not just thinking about him as just a horror writer. He's so many levels, like a onion, breaking it down, peeling all the world.
It actually make you cry too. So
yes. Oh, that is so true.
Yeah.
We are so excited to be able to celebrate Poe's birthday with you guys.
I couldn't think of a better way to
I agree.
celebrate together.
This is fantastic.
It's going to be a great episode.
Yes, absolutely. So kind of first up of what we were going to talk about was, where was Poe born and when was Poe born? I think many people out there in Poe land know this, but it never hurts to be reminded. So who wants to begin?
Well, Poe was born, of course, January 19th, 1809.
Yes.
Ding, ding.
It's become like a holiday for me in my life as well. January 19th and October 7th. I don't know about you guys, but they're like Poe holidays, know, and you kind of commemorate him in your own little way on those days. Like, I'll admit, sometimes I get a piece of birthday cake and I have it on January 19th for Poe, and I kind of read some of his works or maybe a biography of him or something. I just try to incorporate Poe into my life on that day,
Yes.
And yeah, he was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes.
So, I don't want to totally hog the spotlight. If anyone has any more to add.
Well, I do have a couple little fun things that I found on this day in history with to the actual date. Not, I actually found some other things on this day in history, but he was born on a Thursday, and so just kind of pulling from that old nursery rhyme, that Thursday's child has far to go. And I think that totally goes with Poe. And so I tried to little rhyme there.
That's interesting.
I was also born on a Thursday.
Oh, awesome. Yes, I was a Tuesday.
That's really cool.
I was Wednesday, so I got y'all beat.
Levi, what were you?
I was born on a Monday, the worst day of the week.
Oh, no.
But you made it better.
I made it better, right?
Take it back.
We'll go with that.
Take Mondays back.
Yes. And the other thing that I found in 1809, that was not a leap year. Just, it's always kind of interesting to find out those little tidbits of,
Well, leap years aren't on odd number of years.
Right. But I don't know if a lot of people know that.
Huh? I was like, no. It's the moon cycle. They should understand this from their 6th grade science class.
Now, Jeannie, do you really think everybody is going to remember everything from every 6th grade teacher that they have learned from?
No, but they should know the normal things, considering we have to celebrate it every 4 years. That's why we have 365 days in a year, and then because a fourth of the moon rotation. Okay, sorry.
Okay,
Anyway.
all right. Yeah, you could digress forever. We will reel you in.
Good evening, and greetings from the Edgar Allan Poe Museum in Richmond, Virginia. Congratulations on surviving until your 100th episodes. Your work has helped spread the love and appreciation of the melancholy, madness, mystery, murder, and magic that is the works of Edgar Allan Poe. And I hope you'll continue your good work forevermore.
The past, the present, the future. Where will we be today on Time Talks with Jeanie?
Welcome back. It's the month of April, which is all about poetry. So we're going to talk a little bit about where poetry comes from. Well, the word itself comes from the Greek word meaning playa, or I create. It's used to convey things like love, lyrics, anger, hate, magic. You never know. It's just whatever. It's an art form that predates literacy. But we're going to talk about how it does have a literacy connection, especially in today's form of poetry. Many people don't think about today's form of poetry. That's because in alliteration, we think about nursery rhymes. She sells shells down by the seashore. Whew, don't say that 5 times fast. But then we have blank verse, unrhymed lines of an iambic pentameter. So you can think, but soft, what light through yonder window breaks? That's good old Shakespeare. Then we got free verse. It's just a poem, doesn't have a regular rhythm or rhyme. You could just say whatever you want to and how you want to say it. Whether it's in verse or not, just say it. Then we've got things like just a verse itself. That means that it can just be a metric line of poetry as a whole. It can just be whatever you want to. For example, a couplet. A couplet is just 2 lines. So if you just want to say what you want to, just tell them in 2 lines. It's okay. So then we have meters. Now these meters, they're not like what you park in front of. These are just a pattern of repeated stressed and unstressed syllables in a line of poetry. So it's okay. Just stress them or not. Now we got prose. Prose is a form of language. It can be rhythmic, it cannot. It's just the natural flow of speech, however you talk. Just say it what you gotta say. You can say it in a rhyme with similarity of sounds like cat, bat, pot, hot, man can. You never know, just similar. Then you got the rhyme scheme. It's an ordered pattern of rhyme, like in a line of poetry. So if you want to make the cat can run with the bat and fly, who knows? Just put them in a scheme if you don't want to just say them all the same. Then we got stanzas. These stanzas, they are the paragraphs. They can be a triplet, 3 lines, a quatrain, 4 lines, a quintet, 5 lines, a sestet, 6 lines, septet, 7 lines, or an octave, which is 8 lines. However you want to mention it or say it. Do it from the small of a 2 up to at least an 8-line paragraph. It's okay. Just say what you want to say and do what you want to do. Ooh, that sounds familiar. Oh, that's right, lyrics. Now, sonnets. Sonnets are poems that are consisting of 14 lines of iambic pentameter. Now, there's 2 types. Now, the most popular we know of is Shakespeare. Shakespeare likes to consist of, like, his own kind of thing, but the Italians, they did it too. The Italians, they say they want 1 octave, which is 8 lines, and an sestet of 6 lines. It's okay. It's the way they want to do things. Now, Shakespeare, he did it a little bit different. He wanted to stick in 3 quatrains, which are 4 lines each, and a final rhyming of a couplet of 2 lines. Just wanted to say what he wanted to say as quickly as he wanted to say it, or as long as he did. But then there's different types. You got the assonance, which is the repetition of a vowel, like the rain in Spain falls mainly in the plains.
Then you got the consonants, which is the repetition of consonant sounds. She gave the big dog a hug. Sounds like something I learned when I was in grammar school. That's pretty much how we started learning, people. Now, onomatopoeia is that use of a word that sounds like it's meaning. Like if you want to say it went boom. Guess what that was? Probably a bomb. It just went boom. Love doing that. Woohoo! But then you got rhyming verses and repetition phrases, specifically are some of the earliest languages that you absorb. Kind of like nursery rhymes. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down, broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Now, get your submissions in for our Poe contest up till May 15th.
The death of a beautiful woman is unquestionably the most poetical topic in the world. Greetings, Poe fans. The Poetastic 2 are back.
And ready for more. I am Jeanie.
And I am Carmen.
And we're here to tell you about the wonderful detective that was never, ever talked about until, well, I don't know. When did he start getting talked about?
Let's see.
I know we always talk about Edgar Allan Poe, but guess what? He's the reason we talk about him.
Well, just kind of looking up things about detectives really when you think about detectives, you think about mystery fiction and things like that. It goes back to Shakespearean times, but when you think about the origination of the detective, Poe wrote his first story that was around the detective C. Auguste Dupin, and I'm not sure if I am doing that correctly in French.
Sounds good to me.
But that was 1841 with the Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. We start with the Shakespearean times because, Shakespeare, he was the main guy.
Exactly.
Main guy in literature, in wording. He gave us more of the weird slang terms that we use now that not a lot of people know.
Oh, I know. It's fun to actually have that in class and let kids basically, word fight with those.
Yeah, because half the time they have no idea what they're saying anyway, but it sounds cool.
Yes, it does.
And we want to, strike a pose.
Exactly. And so, when this is our first degree we're talking about, which is literature, and we chose to do the detective because it is such an impact, and Jeanie and I both love detective fiction, mysteries, and all of those things. And one thing that Poe did with creating our fun detective Dupin, he also, his very first story with Murders in the Rue Morgue had the locked room mystery, which other authors have used, here and there, numerous TV times. Shows, things like that. And the cool thing is when you think about Poe and creating this, how many other detectives have come from just this one man?
Yeah, and you always have to have the one that starts it all. And most of us know that Edgar Allan Poe, when we think about it, everybody automatically says nevermore.
Yes, ties in together.
Exactly, and you can connect it so well. Because if you think about the literary connection of Poe and surrealism, leading into the actual artistic movement of surrealism with Dolly's love of Poe, and then you have Poe and then Hitchcock, and then Hitchcock's love of Poe, Hitchcock and Dolly working together. So there's all these connections. And one of the things that I love the most about these connections are these masterminds that are so talented.
Yes.
That you can connect them together. Because talent reaches for talent. Like goes to like. And I think that's one of the most mesmerizing.
Yes.
Of them
Bring
all.
in Dr. Mesmer.
Exactly. Dr. Mesmer, because to me, mesmerization is a surrealist idea also, because think of all the optical illusions.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
How many times have we sat there and just looked and you follow that dot and it's moving, but it's not?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it looks like it's moving, but it's all in your mind.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, this was Salvador Dali.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at the clocks, and if you stare at them long enough, you'll see that they're melting.
Yes.
In your mind, but they're not moving.
No, exactly.
Were I called on to define, very briefly, the term art, I should call it the reproduction of what the senses perceive in nature through the veil of the soul. The mere imitation, however accurate, of what is in nature entitles no man to the sacred name of artist.
Greetings, Poe fans. Welcome to our new venture, and it is called Review Morgue. Jeannie, tell us a little bit about this.
Well, in this review morgue, we dig up those dead videos way back when videos first began, to try to attach them to Edgar Allan Poe. Influences from his works, from the man himself, but see how the videos, the movies, whatnot you want to call them, have come about since the beginning up until the most recent times, because even in still today, we have Poe-influenced movies. So Absolutely. That's what we're going to be reviewing from our own opinions.
Yes.
We're reviewing, you know, how much, you know, who the people are that do this, why they did it, and whether we like them or we don't.
Yes. And we'll talk about that later on in the episode.
Forensics that people didn't know about, because in literature, they would make the deductive reasoning.
Right.
You know, inductive, all that kind of thing. Nobody even thought about that being part of forensics. It was all about just the story.
Yes.
You know, following the theme, the setting, you know, the climax, the falling action. Sorry, getting into my teaching days of literature. But, you know, science was not one of those things. It was just, what can we call it? Spur of the moment ideas that started in the Grecian times. And then, you know, you had algebra with the pharaohs and the Egyptians, and then, you know, buoyancy and gravity and astrology and all that came about, but all of that still was kind of being spurned by the religion.
Absolutely. And I even thinking about Egypt, thinking about hieroglyphics, you know, later on, especially in the 1920s and 30s, just thinking about the cryptography behind it as well.
Oh, exactly. And then if you think about it, wasn't it the early 1900s when they found the Rosetta Stone?
Yes, exactly.
And I mean, it was like the whole, you know, like the decipher ring that everybody used to, you know, get in the bag of cereal was like, oh, we can decipher everything.
Right. And I mean, and when you think about cryptography, you know, Poe was a cryptologist, definitely. And he wrote The Gold Bug in 1843, and it really, that term cryptography, he kind of coined, and in that story, and was one of the first to actually say it. And then he also kind of thinking about Francis Bacon, Poe talked about in different articles and things, just puzzles and solving puzzles and things like that, leaning back to cryptography.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Science, and we're going to bring it in.
Words have no power to impress the mind without the exquisite horror of their reality. Greetings, Poe fans. We are back for episode 2, Batman and the Raven, Nevermore. I am Carmen Bolden.
And I am Jeannie Smith.
And we are the Potastic 2. Welcome back, and we are going to dive into comics and Poe. And so we looked into the Batman Nevermore series, which is DC Comics.
Yes.
And Jeanie is going to give us a beautiful, wonderful summary of the whole series. There's 5, but she's only going to really talk about the first episode or the first volume in the series. Yes.
Volume 1 of a 5-part series.
Yes.
And of course, I'm only going to give you the overview of the first one because I don't want to ruin it. You got to go out. You got to read it.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah, and especially even those people that aren't big on comics, this is also a cross into the literary world for us too.
Absolutely, and we're going to speak of that later.
Yes. So the actual title is called Batman Nevermore, and it is a DC comic. It's also sponsored by Elseworld. I'm not sure exactly how they are connected to DC, but they are also part of the sponsors.
Yes, and it came out in 2003. That was the first volume. And the author was Len Wein. It's spelled Wein, but it's pronounced Wein. And the illustrator was Guy Davis.
Right. And the illustrations are spot on.
Yes, they're absolutely beautiful.
Yes, and I mean, it's very eye-catching. That's one of the things, and we all know, especially if we've watched Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yes.
They live in the comic book store, and that's one of the things that captures you when you're looking for different comics. You want to get an impression.
Yes.
From what you're first looking at. And this is definitely is Batman, but there's a little bit of tweak to his cowl and his mask when you first see it, because he's got, instead of the bat so much, he's got a long nose like a raven.
Oh, I love it.
Yes,
love it.
Then you got poor old Poe there with his
degree, Poe Places. There's several we can choose from, but we like to kind of at first, since we did Ireland last year, we decided to pick up and do Rhode Island this year because not a lot of people know about Poe's connection to Rhode Island, and we just thought that it was just a good year to do this. And so we're going to kind of talk about a little bit of the history first, and then talk about, really get down to, why did Poe go to Rhode Island for the reasons he did.
Right.
So, Jeanie, do you want to introduce kind of a little bit about the history, or do you want me to start?
Oh, I can do that. That'll be my little contribution this morning. First of all, I want to start out to say that Ireland is an island and Rhode Island is not. Rhode Island is actually a part of the contiguous United States. But it got the name, I don't know how, but it just kind of weird. Rhode Island, but it's not an island. However, what's really informational for me when I used to teach United States history in the early colonies was how Rhode Island became a colony. And it was founded by a Puritan named Roger Williams, who got ousted from the Puritans in Massachusetts.
Greetings, Poe fans. Welcome to another edition of On the Road with Carmen. Back in November of 2022, my husband and I were going on a trip to California, and I decided to look for a connection to Edgar Allan Poe. I found out that the Getty Museum, which I had been to about 20 years before, actually had a daguerreotype of Poe. And so with much communication, I was able to get a hold of Miriam from the Department of Photographs at the Getty Museum, and she made an appointment for me to attend a special appointment in the Department of Photography to see the daguerreotype. You can imagine my anticipation of getting to go, and lo and behold, I actually got to see more than just the daguerreotype. They had a collection called Edgar Allan Poe, a memorial volume published in 1877 by Sarah Sigourney Rice. And there is a preface in the book that she wrote from Baltimore in November of 1876. And basically, this was a memorial dedicated to the new monument where Poe was moved when the new marble monument was erected in 1875. What's really cool is there are several letters from poets and authors submitted for the memorial. Some of them, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Sarah Helen Whitman, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and Henry Longfellow. So that was really cool to see that as well. It also contains a photograph of Poe, which was that is from the original daguerreotype that was taken at Old Whitehurst Gallery in Richmond. That's actually at the very beginning of the book. Then, the daguerreotype itself. It was 4 13/16 by 3.5 inches big. It was taken in late May to early June of 1849. They do not have any idea who the actual taker of the daguerreotype was. That was one part of the information that they did not have. But they did have the record of that it was sold to the museum by Arnold Crane in 1984. Unfortunately, there was no other information, but it was a dream come true to see this daguerreotype up close and personal. Could not touch it, but was able to get a picture of me with it. So it was extremely, extremely exciting. I couldn't believe it. So then the Getty was actually celebrating their 25th year, and so I had my picture taken at that little cute photographic opportunity at the very end before we left. So for now, I am Poe out.
But his creations, I should talk about those briefly. One of the things he created that is so well known is something that's now called, he never referred to it as such, now called the Cthulhu mythos, named after the creature from the story of the Call of Cthulhu. And it's variously pronounced, Cthulhu, Cthulhu, Clulu. You pick your poison. It really doesn't matter. If you say any one of those, people are gonna probably know what you're talking about because it doesn't sound like anything else.
Good point.
So he, what this mythos was really a collection of different things, like these creatures that he created. So creatures like Cthulhu and Azathoth and Shub-Niggurath, all these kinds of creatures that figure in his stories. Lesser creatures like deep ones and ghouls, but also a variety of different books, like the Necronomicon, which I mentioned earlier, which is kind of a medieval grimoire of sorts, but written in the 9th century, I believe, by an Arab. And other books like the Book of Ibon and Unausprechlichen Kulten, or Unspeakable Cults. And many of these things were created not just by Lovecraft, but by his friends. He had friends that also created things and would write stories and borrow from Lovecraft. And so it was this shared universe that they all created together. And imagine what it was like being a reader of Weird Tales and reading a Lovecraft story that mentions these things. And then you read a story by Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan the Barbarian, and there's these things in that story too. And you're like, what's going on here? Is there some mythology that I'm not familiar with? And it must have been kind of exciting to be readers at this time to discover this stuff. And then for my own purposes, one of the elements I find interesting is Lovecraft also created these fictional locations. So his best known one is probably Arkham, but also Dunwich and Kingsport and Innsmouth. These are all based on real world places, most of them on the North Shore of Boston in Essex County. Nice. And so these creatures, these tomes, these places, all these combine to be kind of the window dressing, as it were, of the Cthulhu mythos.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of, you know, his life and what he went through and everything he created, and just thinking about kind of bringing back Poe into this and like his influence. And I could see where Lovecraft could connect to Poe, especially with the loss that both of them suffered. And just as, you know, young people growing into adulthood, losing lots of their important people in their life.
Yeah.
And
there was a
where
lot of
you
loss.
can make those connections, you know, like, hey, I have something in common with him.
Right.
A lot of parallels too that I noticed with Poe and Lovecraft, as far as, you know, their monetary success versus their popularity. You know, their kind of abrupt deaths that kind of lasted a few days, and then the lack of a stone, and then fans coming together decades later to then erect a stone, and a lot of parallels, that I really did not notice even before, until Donovan was just going through Lovecraft's biography, that I made those connections. And pretty significant. You can
one.
Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song in search of El Dorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot of ground that looked like El Dorado. And when his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of El Dorado? O'er the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow, ride, boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek for El Dorado.
100. Centennial. I am so excited to reach this milestone with Jeanie, my Poecast partner in all things Poe. I could not do this alone. She is my Montresor to my Fortunat. Well, we'll leave that one for Poe. Speaking of the Master of the Macabre, The Raven was my first meeting with Poe, and it created a spark in me to keep reading his works. When I was 15, I read and saw The Murders in the Rue Morgue, and that work, in addition to my first reading of The Raven, created an obsession as the unnamed narrator in The Telltale Heart for my love of Poe. So thus, we hope to keep providing information on Poe in our Poecast forevermore.
It was many and many a year ago in a classroom in East Tennessee when I was first introduced to the words of Poe in the form of Annabelle Lee. Now, I fell in love that day and have been a Poe fan ever since, so it brought me to today with the 6 Degrees of Poe and my Poetastic partner, Carmen Bolden, and our 100th video in 4 years. So thank you to everyone who follows Poe. We love bringing you more Poe, and more Poe. So stay tuned.